Right now, the world's most elite, traditional, land-based luxury hotel brands are quietly funneling well over $2 billion into a massive armada of ocean-going mega yachts.
Yeah, it's honestly staggering when you look at the numbers.
It really is. So today we are uncovering why brands like Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, and Amman have decided that the future of their real estate isn't, well, actually on land at all.
Right. They're looking entirely elsewhere.
Exactly. So welcome to you, our listener, to this custom-tailored deep dive. Our mission today is to unpack this paradigm-shifting, multi-billion-dollar pivot that's happening right now in the world of ultra-luxury travel.
And we have a really fascinating stack of sources on the desk to guide us through this, don't we?
We do, yeah. We are pulling critical data from the Bain Altagamma Luxury Study 2024, a really comprehensive PKF hospitality luxury cruise market study, which specifically zeroes in on the port of Aruba, and some incredible industry insights from Rob Chateau, Luxury Tribune, and Prestige Online.
It is a phenomenal collection of intelligence because it forces us to look at the entire spectrum of the shift.
Right, the whole picture.
Exactly. We are tracing the macroeconomic consumer trends of the global elite all the way down to the, specific naval engineering and geographical logistics required to physically move billionaires around the planet seamlessly.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the central mystery we're unraveling is that $2 billion bet.
Sure.
Why are the most discreet hospitality brands in the world, brands that have spent the last 50 years perfecting the art of the stationary architectural monument, why are they suddenly throwing off the boat lines?
Well, to understand why they are launching into the sea, we first have to understand the fractures that are appearing on the land.
Okay, so let's look at the macroeconomic groundwork laid out in that Bain Altagamma 2024 study. We are looking at a global luxury market sized at an estimated 579 billion euros.
Which is massive.
Massive. But the texture of that market is changing rapidly.
It is changing fundamentally. I mean, for the past few years, especially during that initial post-pandemic rebound, we witnessed a massive, indiscriminate surge in luxury spending.
Right, everyone was just buying everything.
Exactly. It was a rising tide that lifted all boats. People were buying everything from entry-level designer sneakers to high-complication watches.
Yeah.
But that growth is normalizing now, and more importantly, it is severely polarizing. The market is fracturing along generational and economic fault lines.
So let's define that polarization for you, the listener. The data shows a clear split between aspirational buyers and the ultra-high net worth individuals, the UHNWIs.
Right.
The aspirational buyers, so the next gen, Gen Z, millennials, they're aggressively pulling back.
They are. And the reasons are multifaceted. I mean, they've been hit the hardest by current economic pressures, inflation, global uncertainty.
Sure.
But there's also a profound fatigue setting in. Luxury brands have executed relentless, aggressive price elevations over the last few years.
Oh, it's wild. You see certain flagship handbags and accessories jump 20, 30, even 40% in price since 2021.
Without any corresponding change in the design or the materials.
Right. Nothing changed but the price tag.
Exactly. So the data shows younger generations are actually shrinking as a customer base for traditional luxury goods because the value proposition has just, evaporated for them.
I mean, if inflation is squeezing your everyday life, and a designer brand tells you the exact same canvas tote bag is now 30% more expensive just because they say so, that purchase suddenly looks a lot less justifiable. It feels less like an investment and more like an extraction.
That feeling of extraction is exactly what the Bain study highlights.
Yeah.
But, on the other side of that polarization, you have the baby boomers and the UHNWIs.
The people who aren't worried about grocery prices.
Right. This demographic is largely insulated from everyday economic pressures. Their spending continues to hold up, especially in the absolute top-tier segments. But what is truly disruptive is where they are redirecting that immense capital.
Because they aren't just buying more watches and sports cars to fill out the garage, are they?
Not exactly. I mean, the ultra-high range of luxury cars is holding steady, but there is a very visible, very vocal frustration with traditional retail.
Yeah. Let's get into this because this is crazy to me.
The Bain study highlights a staggering statistic that should terrify traditional retail executives.
Yeah.
36% of luxury customers believe the in-store experience has actually worsened.
Let's just pause on that 36%.
Yep.
If you think about what that actually looks like on the ground in Paris or Milan or New York,
Yeah.
you are paying a massive, unprecedented premium for a product. but the experience of buying it feels degraded. It feels transactional.
It feels like processing.
Yes, processing.
You know, the velvet ropes, the queuing outside the boutique, the generic glass of champagne while you wait for a sales associate who is managing 3 other clients.
Right.
The ultra-wealthy consumer is looking around and saying, I am spending 50,000 euros today, and I feel like I'm in a highly decorated waiting room.
Wow. Yeah, the brands have doubled down on price elevations, but they haven't elevated the acquisition experience to match.
Not at all.
So the capital is still there, but the tolerance for bad retail is gone. Where is the money flowing?
It is shifting aggressively from physical products to experiences.
Okay.
Specifically, the data points to massive traction in out-of-home experiences, fine art, private jets, and luxury hospitality. The modern luxury consumer is searching for cultural immersion, authenticity, holistic wellness.
They don't just want another item sitting in a climate-controlled closet.
Exactly. They want transformation.
I look at it like the difference between buying a band's t-shirt and buying the VIP backstage pass.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right. Like for a long time, the t-shirt, the physical good, was enough of a status symbol. But now the ultra-wealthy want the pass. They want to be in the room, feeling the energy, having an intimate, ephemeral experience that physically cannot be mass-produced, boxed, and shipped to a million other people.
The Bain study's granular details completely support that analogy.
Yeah.
In the food and beverage sector, we are seeing a massive rise in demand for rare, fine wines and hyper-curated gourmet experiences.
Makes sense.
And we see a surge in demand for health and well-being services. So advanced longevity clinics, private yoga retreats, sleep technology integrated into travel, it's all encompassing the ultra experience.
If you, the listener, think about your own psychology around travel and spending lately, this probably resonates, right?
Definitely.
If you've ever felt the fatigue of a crowded airport terminal, or the disappointment of a highly anticipated tourist spot that turned out to be packed shoulder to shoulder, you understand the exact friction these consumers are trying to avoid.
Yeah.
We are all increasingly valuing a flawless trip over a physical item. These brands are just taking that universal desire for peace and seamlessness and scaling it with billions of dollars.
It is a deeply human shift, magnified by astronomical wealth. And the hospitality industry has caught this tidal wave of capital.
They really have.
Luxury hotel occupancy rates and average daily rates, the ADRs have stabilized well above their pre-pandemic levels. There is a relentless rise in high-value bookings. I mean, the best suites at the best properties are often booked 1 to 2 years in advance.
Which brings us to the central tension of our deep dive.
Yes.
The absolute top-tier hotel brands have a willing, phenomenally wealthy audience that wants to pour money into hospitality experiences. They are booking out the penthouses years in advance.
Right.
So how do the brands capture more of this capital? They run into a very literal physical wall.
They hit the physical limits of the earth.
This is our first major focus point today. Why hotels are moving beyond hotels. It is a fundamental geographical truth. Hotel brands have reached the limits of land-based expansion.
Because when we talk about true, uncompromising luxury, the core ingredient is exclusivity. You need pristine, untouched, or highly curated environments.
Right.
But the supply of those environments on land is finite.
Yeah, I mean, there are only so many pristine, dramatic cliffs in Amalfi. There are only so many secluded, perfect beaches in Bali or private atolls in the Maldives where you can build an exclusive resort before the destination itself stops being exclusive.
Exactly.
If a luxury brand, or a cluster of luxury brands, builds 10 resorts on the same stretch of coastline, it ceases to be a retreat. It becomes a luxury neighborhood. It becomes congested.
And congestion is the enemy of the ultra-luxury value proposition.
Totally.
You cannot scale true exclusivity on land indefinitely without diluting the product. If an Amman or a Ritz-Carlton builds in a slightly less perfect location just to expand their footprint, they damage the brand equity they spent decades building.
They are literally running out of prime, untouched real estate on Earth that fits their rigorous brand standards.
They are.
That geographical bottleneck forces us to look closely at who exactly they are building for, which is our second major focus point. Understanding that for the ultra-high net worth client, time is the new luxury.
Yes. If we synthesize the psychological and demographic profile of the UHNWI from our sources, we are looking at an individual who has already conquered the physical real estate game.
Right. They own everything already.
They already own multiple prime properties.
Yeah.
They have the penthouse in Manhattan, the historic villa in Tuscany, the ski chalet in Courchevel.
Yeah.
They've already spent a month in the best €10,000 a night hotel suites in Paris and Tokyo.
The accumulation of physical space is no longer a novelty to them.
Exactly. What they lack, what they cannot simply buy off a shelf, is time. And more specifically, uninterrupted time.
So, time is the new luxury means the absolute absence of friction. I imagine that for someone with unlimited wealth, every single logistical delay, every moment spent waiting in a transfer vehicle, every minor miscommunication with a concierge feels like a theft of their time.
That is the perfect way to frame it. The truly scarce commodity for this demographic isn't access to a beautifully designed room with 1,000 thread count sheets. It's an uninterrupted, flawless luxury experience.
Uninterrupted being the key word.
Right. Is the invisible, seamless transition from one state of relaxation to another without having to manage the process.
But let me push back on that for a second.
Okay.
If the goal is total control and zero friction, and I am a billionaire who demands that level of perfection, why wouldn't I just buy my own super yacht?
That's the classic question.
Right. Why would I wait for Ritz-Carlton to build a vessel just so I can rent a suite on it? The ultimate flex has always been the private super yacht.
It is the ultimate symbol of wealth, sure, but it is also the ultimate logistical nightmare. The sources indicate a growing disillusionment with the reality of super yacht ownership.
Really?
Oh, yeah. When you buy a super yacht, you aren't just buying a boat. You are buying a highly complex maritime business that you now have to manage.
You become an employer in a highly regulated industry.
Precisely. You have to hire, manage, and retain a highly specialized crew. Captains quit, specialized chefs get poached by other billionaires.
Sounds exhausting.
And that's just the staff. You have to deal with endless, eye-watering maintenance schedules, dry docking, complex international maritime regulations, massive insurance premiums.
Wow.
And then there is the sheer logistical friction of routing the vessel. If you want to spend August in the Mediterranean and December in St. Bart's, you have to coordinate a massive transatlantic crossing, deal with harbor masters, secure berths in highly congested ports.
It stops being a vacation and starts being a job.
Exactly. What the UHNW traveler wants today is the absolute guarantee of a brand service standard without the crushing logistical headaches of ownership.
That makes total sense.
They want to step onto a vessel and know instinctively that the culinary program, the spa treatments, the intuitive nature of the staff, and the aesthetic are already calibrated to the exact standard they expect from their favorite land-based resort.
They want to write a massive check, step on board, and have the magic just happen.
Yes.
They want the frictionless nature of a branded experience where someone else worries about the engine maintenance and the crew payroll.
And that desire for frictionless perfection brings us to a critical inflection point.
Okay.
If the consumer demands uninterrupted, branded experiences and the hotel brands are physically maxed out on pristine land, where do they go to capture that demand?
They look at the globe, realize it's 71% water, and they go to the ocean.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the ocean grab, the floating villas. The details in the Rob Chateau and Luxury Tribune articles reveal a reality that completely rewrites the hospitality playbook. We are talking about a highly coordinated, multi-billion-dollar mobilization by the most elite hotel brands in the world to conquer the sea.
And the velocity of this shift is staggering. I mean, within the space of just a few years, an entirely new asset class in luxury travel is being manifested from thin air.
Let's walk through this lineup because the scale and the capital commitment are just wild.
It's massive.
The Ritz-Carlton Yacht Collection was the pioneer here, right? They launched the Evrima in 2022. They followed it with the Ilma in 2024, and the Luminara is slated for 2025. Then Four Seasons enters the fray. They are launching a vessel simply called Four Seasons Ahay in 2026, perfectly timed to celebrate their 65th anniversary sailing out of Malaga.
And then Accor's Orient Express is taking a radically different, highly romanticized approach. They're launching the Corinthian.
The Corinthian.
Yeah. At 220 meters, it will be the world's largest sailing yacht, utilizing massive solid sails. They're investing reported figures north of 800 million euros just for their initial 2 vessels.
Just for 2 ships. And finally, you have Aman. Aman is arguably the most exclusive, fiercely protected, quiet luxury brand on the planet. They are building the 183-meter Amangati for delivery in 2027.
Right.
If you aggregate the capital being deployed across these 4 programs, you're looking at well over $2 billion just in raw shipbuilding costs before marketing, staffing, or operations.
What is crucial to understand is that this is not exploratory capital.
It's not a side project.
Exactly. This isn't a marketing stunt or a minor brand extension. As Rob Chateau points out, this is the major hotel groups telling the market that the luxury cruise category is being permanently aggressively restructured around hotel brand identity.
And here's the most critical thing you need to understand about this entire shift. Listen closely. These yachts are not cruise ships, they are floating branded residences.
That single distinction is the entire foundation of their strategy.
Let me say it again, just so we are all on the exact same page, because it is that important. These yachts are not cruise ships. They are floating branded residences. I cannot stress that enough.
That's vital.
But to really grasp the mechanics of why that matters, we need to look at what they are disrupting. What was the traditional luxury cruise market doing before these hotels decided to build ships?
Well, for the past 30 years, when you discussed luxury cruising, you were referring to incredible heritage brands like Silversea, Seabourn, or Regent Seven Seas. These are phenomenal operators with deep institutional maritime knowledge. But fundamentally, from a naval architecture standpoint, they were still building ships.
Meaning the design language was dictated by the vessel, not by a hotel blueprint.
Exactly. The cabins, no matter how dripping in marble and luxury, were still cabin scale.
Right.
The ceilings were lower, the corridors were narrow, the dining was excellent, but contained within the rigid paradigm of a cruise ship dining hall.
And the excursions felt, processed. You dock, you get off the boat with a large group, you get onto a luxury motor coach, you see the ruins, you buy the souvenir, you get back on the boat before the horn blows.
Yes. And the Rob Chateau article notes a fascinating psychological barrier here. These traditional cruise brand names, despite their quality, were often unfamiliar or unappealing to the specific UH&W traveler who had spent the last 2 decades exclusively booking Aman, Ritz-Carlton, and Four Seasons on land.
They just didn't speak the same language?
Right. The hotel brands realized there was a massive gap in the market. Wealthy clients who categorically refused to go on a cruise because of the mass market connotations of the word, but who desperately wanted to explore the oceans.
So how do the hotel brands actually engineer these vessels differently? I mean, how do you move from a luxury cabin to a floating branded residence?
It requires a complete rethink of the naval architecture. They're throwing out the traditional cruise ship blueprint that maximizes passenger density.
Okay.
Instead, they're building residential scale suites. We are talking about massive square footage, high ceilings, seamless indoor-outdoor living spaces, private plunge pools on the terraces.
The engineering to make that happen at sea is mind-boggling. How do you stabilize a vessel enough so that a Michelin star kitchen functions flawlessly, plating delicate dishes while crossing the Mediterranean?
Right.
Or how do you ensure the acoustic insulation is so perfect that the guest never hears the hum of a massive marine diesel engine?
Well, that is where the billions of dollars are going. They are layering their exacting land-based service standards, the software, if you will, over this highly engineered hardware.
Yeah.
They're transferring their world-renowned chefs, their sommeliers, their spa directors, directly from their flagship land properties to the sea. But the ultimate currency they are bringing is brand trust.
Brand trust. A guest who spends a month every year at the Four Seasons George V in Paris already knows exactly how the Four Seasons yacht is going to feel before they even look at a deck plan.
Exactly.
They know the exact tenor of the service, the weight of the cutlery, the specific aesthetic, the level of intuition from the staff. That pre-established trust is an invisible moat that traditional cruise lines simply cannot manufacture overnight.
Let's examine the sheer scale of what Aman is doing with the Yamagati to really illustrate this concept.
Please.
The Luxury Tribune piece highlights that this isn't just a beautiful boat with nice beds. It is a highly complex hybrid economic model.
Break that hybrid model down. How does the financing actually work?
It's a brilliant blend of hospitality, premium cruising, and private superyachting economics. Aman isn't just selling weekly tickets. They're offering private ownership of specific residences on the vessel.
Like buying a condo.
Exactly, much like they sell branded villas adjacent to their land resorts. Owners can live on board or put their floating residence back into the Aman hotel inventory to be chartered when they aren't using it.
Oh, wow.
It creates a recurring revenue stream while offsetting the immense capital expenditure of the build.
And the amenities match that level of investment, right? The sources report Aman is building the largest spa ever constructed at sea, designed by the legendary yacht designer Sino.
Yes.
We aren't talking about a couple of massage tables. This integrates advanced medical spas, longevity treatments, culture, and entertainment.
It acts as an experiential platform. The traditional boundaries between indoor and outdoor spaces on a ship are being entirely dissolved to prioritize wellness and vast space versatility.
Which ties right back.
Yes. This aligns perfectly with the Bain study's finding that the ultra-wealthy consumer expects holistic wellness solutions seamlessly integrated into their travel.
This brings us to a conceptual leap that is honestly the true genius of this whole movement. We've talked about the physical hardware, these massive floating billion-dollar palaces.
Right.
We've talked about the hybrid economics. But the real shift is the psychological strategy of how these vessels move. This is our third major focus point. Luxury becomes mobile.
This is the transition from the legacy concept of a luxury destination to the modern concept of a luxury ecosystem.
Let's use an analogy here. I look at this like the Apple tech ecosystem, but applied to physical geography.
Okay, I like that.
With Apple, you have the phone, the watch, the laptop. It's a walled garden where everything works perfectly as long as you never leave it. How does that translate to hospitality?
Well, a traditional luxury destination is static. You, the consumer, must deal with the friction of commercial travel to go to Paris to stay at the Ritz. You fly to Utah to access the Imagerie Resort.
You do the work.
You do the moving to access the stationary brand. An ecosystem, in this new mobile context, is an environment that surrounds you and caters to your entire lifestyle, and it alters its geography to suit your needs.
Oh, man.
According to Prestige Online, these new yachts are fluid by nature. They're designed to move with what they call the rhythm of global wealth.
The rhythm of global wealth. It perfectly describes the migratory patterns of the ultra-rich.
It really does. It means the yachts position themselves in the Mediterranean during the European summer, exactly when the global elite want to be seen, or rather unseen, near Saint-Tropez, Monaco, or the Amalfi Coast.
Right.
Then, as the seasons change and Europe cools down, the yachts cyclically migrate to the Caribbean, the Maldives, or Southeast Asia for the winter.
So the brand is no longer waiting for you to arrive. It is physically migrating to wherever the concentration of wealth naturally wants to be.
Precisely. Amon's strategy here is the ultimate masterclass in vertical integration. The Luxury Tribune article explicitly points out that Amon isn't in the business of just selling a room anymore.
They're selling everything.
They are monetizing the entire Amon lifestyle. I mean, they started with the ultra-secluded hotels. Then they realized their clients loved the aesthetics so much, they moved into branded cosmetics, wellness products, high-end fashion, fine fragrances.
Yeah.
They launched Amon-branded interior design services for private homes. And now they are conquering the oceans.
They are transforming their brand into a ubiquitous global ecosystem of premium living. The ultimate goal of this vertical integration is that a loyal Amon client never actually has to endure the friction of leaving the Amon universe.
Exactly.
You wake up on Amon-branded sheets in your primary residence, you apply Amon skincare, you stay at an Amon land resort for your winter ski trip in the Alps, and you sail on the Amon yacht for your summer holiday in the Mediterranean. You never have to step outside the walled garden.
And crucial to the appeal of this mobile ecosystem is the ability to escape. Prestige Online highlights a significant cultural shift among this new generation of travelers.
What's the shift?
They're actively moving away from overt, social media-driven excess. The era of spraying champagne at a crowded beach club for an Instagram story is fading among the true UHNWIs.
They don't want the attention anymore.
Right. They want stealth wealth. They want profound privacy, immense personal space, and emotional connection with their environment.
And because these hotel-branded yachts are significantly smaller and more agile than commercial mega cruise ships, often holding just 100 to 200 guests rather than 5,000, they can access secluded, boutique ports that the massive commercial ships physically cannot enter.
They can drop anchor in a hidden cove in the Greek islands, or a tiny inlet in the Norwegian fjords where no megaship could ever fit.
Yeah.
They offer true isolation, but with the reassurance of a Michelin-starred kitchen and 247 world-class room service waiting just inside.
They are curating itineraries that offer deep, private dives into history and nature, entirely away from the generic tourist traps. They are managing the client's environment down to the millimeter, completely insulating them from the clouds.
But this introduces a massive logistical collision.
Right, because there is a fatal flaw in this whole floating oasis concept if you don't solve the infrastructure problem.
Exactly.
You can build a billion-dollar hyper-private yacht, but eventually it needs fuel, it needs fresh food, and it needs a port. If you pull a Ritz-Carlton yacht into a standard Caribbean port, aren't you just dumping your UHNW clients who paid a premium for isolation right into the middle of the mass tourism chaos they're actively paying to avoid?
It's terrible.
It's like trying to land a private jet at a crowded bus terminal.
That specific friction point is exactly what the industry is wrestling with right now, and it leads us perfectly to our case study. The island of Aruba, analyzed through the PKF Hospitality Luxury Cruise Market Study.
Let's dive deep into the PKF data, because the economic stakes for these destinations are just massive.
Huge.
The overall luxury cruise market is exploding. PKF projects the sector to grow from $6.08 billion in 2022 to an astonishing $14.13 billion by 2029.
Wow.
That is a 12.8% compound annual growth rate.
It is arguably one of the fastest-growing subsegments in the entire global travel industry. But as the PKF study clearly identifies, destinations like Aruba are facing a severe infrastructural identity crisis.
An identity crisis.
Yeah, they define it as the clash between luxury for the masses and true luxury.
Define luxury for the masses in the context of a Caribbean port. What does that actually look like on a Tuesday afternoon?
Well, it looks like an industrial port that has been optimized to handle 4 or 5 massive mega ships simultaneously.
Okay.
It involves discharging 10 to 15,000 tourists onto the streets within a 2-hour window to buy duty-free souvenirs, take generic bus tours, and crowd the local beaches.
It's chaos.
It might be marketed as a premium vacation to the people on those ships, but the physical infrastructure is built entirely for volume and throughput, not exclusivity.
The UHNWI on the Aman yacht expects fundamentally different standards. If I am paying $50,000 a week for my floating residence, the illusion of the walled garden shatters the moment I have to stand in a sweltering customs line with 3,000 other people in a concrete terminal.
Precisely. The seamlessness is broken. And Aruba's government and tourism authorities recognize this existential threat to capturing the luxury market.
Yeah, what do they do?
The PKF study outlines a very specific, highly capital-intensive action plan for destinations that want to host these floating villas. First, they have to physically segregate the traffic.
Oh, wow.
They need specialized, high-end port facilities. You cannot mix the floating villas with the megaships. They need dedicated, highly secured, aesthetically pleasing docking areas.
And the logistical solutions they are proposing for customs are fascinating. The study suggests Aruba needs to heavily leverage its existing geopolitical advantage of having U.S. Customs pre-clearance located directly at the island's airport.
This is a massive logistical win and a huge competitive advantage for Aruba.
Explain how that works.
It means if an American passenger finishes their yacht journey in Aruba, they don't have to deal with customs when they land back in the States. They clear U.S. customs on the island of Aruba.
Right.
Meaning when their private jet or commercial flight lands in Miami or New York, they arrive as domestic travelers. They just grab their bags and walk out.
That is incredible.
It removes a massive, stressful point of friction from the very end of the journey.
It's all about keeping that uninterrupted luxury bubble intact until the client is literally in their driveway back home.
Yes.
The PKF study also highlights ground transport. The port experience doesn't end at the gangway. You can't have a guest step off the gleaming Four Seasons yacht and be ushered into a battered, generic taxi van.
Definitely not.
The destination has to radically upgrade its luxury transport ecosystem, ensuring a fleet of private black cars, luxury SUVs, or even helicopter transfers are waiting perfectly timed on the tarmac to match the ship's standards.
And if we connect this localized infrastructure challenge back to the broader macroeconomic picture from the Bain study, there's another incredibly complex layer here: sustainability.
Ah, right. The environmental impact of moving these massive ships.
Yes, the Bain report explicitly noted that ultra-luxury travelers, particularly the younger UHNWIs who are inheriting wealth, demand environmental conservation as a non-negotiable part of their experience.
Interesting.
The PKF study reiterates this tension. Historically, the cruise industry and environmental sustainability have been diametrically opposed. But the high-end sector is being forced to invest heavily in engineering solutions to change that narrative.
So how does a port like Aruba adapt to the environmental demands of these new, hyper-scrutinized yachts?
But engineering what is called shore power infrastructure.
Okay, explain the mechanics of shore power. Because to a layperson, it sounds like you just plug an extension cord into the dock, but it's way more complicated than that, right?
Yeah, vastly more complicated. Currently, when large ships dock, they often have to keep their massive marine diesel engines idling just to generate the electricity needed to keep the lights on, the kitchens running, and the air conditioning blasting for the passengers.
Okay.
This creates terrible local air pollution and constant low-frequency noise pollution in the port. To solve this, an ultra-luxury port must build high-capacity shore power facilities.
Wow.
This means a small island like Aruba suddenly has to generate and safely transmit megawatts of clean electricity to the dock, so these floating skyscrapers can physically plug into the local grid, shut down their internal combustion engines entirely, and sit silently and cleanly while docked.
The engineering required to supply that much stable megawattage without browning out the local island grid is a massive infrastructural undertaking.
It is huge.
And the ships themselves are having to undergo radical engineering changes to adapt to this new reality, right?
Yeah. Yes. The Bain study mentions the forced fleet renewals happening globally because of intense regulatory pressures and consumer demand. The maritime industry is desperately pushing toward alternative fuels, exploring green methanol, liquefied natural gas, advanced marine biofuels.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, for the aviation side of the luxury travel journey, there is a push for sustainable aviation fuels, or SAFs.
And the bottleneck there isn't the desire to use clean fuel, it's the global supply chain, correct?
Exactly. There simply isn't enough green methanol, or SAF, being produced globally right now to power the entire commercial industry.
But the luxury sector is stepping in.
Right. These $2 billion hotel yacht fleets and private jet operators will be the ones willing and able to pay the massive premium to secure and utilize those ecofuels first. They will subsidize the early adoption curve.
So, synthesizing all of this port data, is this going to create a literal two-tiered world in these global tourist destinations? One massive, loud, commercial, industrial port for the masses, and a highly secluded, hyper-curated, zero-emission port hidden around the coastline just for the floating villas.
That is exactly the reality the data suggests is being built right now. To attract the ultra-rich, destinations cannot just offer a deeper water berth. They have to curate intimate, exclusive, frictionless environments.
Yeah.
They have to fundamentally rethink their onshore offerings, moving away from generic tourist attractions and towards bespoke, private explorations of nature and culture that are entirely segregated from the mass market. The destination itself has to adapt to mirror the exclusivity of the yacht.
Man, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. We've looked at the stalling of physical retail and the frustration of the 36%.
Yeah.
We've defined the desperate desire for uninterrupted time and the logistical nightmare of superyacht ownership. We've examined the billions being poured into these floating branded residences, the shift from static destinations to mobile ecosystems, and the way entire nations like Aruba are having to rebuild their physical infrastructure to accommodate this shift.
It's a lot to process.
It is. So where does this leave us? What is the ultimate takeaway?
It leads us to the ultimate synthesis of this entire deep dive, and arguably the most important paradigm shift in modern luxury that we have seen in decades. This is our fifth and final focus point.
Let's hear it.
Luxury brands are becoming mobility companies.
Wow. Luxury brands are becoming mobility companies.
They are no longer just hospitality companies anchored to a specific piece of earth. They are no longer in the business of just making beds, arranging flowers, and serving food inside a stationary building.
Right.
They are actively managing the literal movement of the global elite through space and time.
Think about how that fundamentally reshapes our entire cultural understanding of what a vacation actually is. It's no longer about dealing with the friction of travel to go to a place. It's about entering a brand's universe, stepping through the doors of an Amman or a Ritz-Carlton environment, and letting that universe carry you safely, luxuriously, and seamlessly across the world. The geography, the physical ocean outside the window, almost becomes secondary to the ecosystem of the brand.
From a business perspective, they have realized that if they control the mobility, they control the entire experience end to end. There is no friction, there is no break in the quality of service, and crucially, there is no leakage of revenue to outside airlines or charter companies.
The brand itself becomes the destination.
Exactly. It is a stunning evolution of the hospitality business model.
It really is.
And if we extrapolate this trend based on the trajectory of the data, it leaves us with a rather provocative thought to consider.
Oh, I like these. Go ahead.
If these hotel brands have conquered the land with their ultra-exclusive resorts, and they are currently conquering the sea by becoming mobility companies that control every second of an uninterrupted luxury experience, what is the next logical step?
Right. Where do they go?
If you control the land and the sea, how long until we see a fully integrated, commercialized, Four Seasons, branded private jet network that flies you seamlessly from your home directly to the tarmac next to your Four Seasons floating villa.
I mean, honestly, it seems inevitable. Or, to take it to the absolute sci-fi extreme, how long until we see an Amman-branded space station in low Earth orbit, offering the ultimate frictionless escape from the planet itself?
It sounds absurd right now. But 20 years ago, the idea of the Ritz-Carlton deploying billions of dollars to build an armada of mega yachts sounded equally absurd.
That's a great point.
If the ultimate goal is total, frictionless control of a luxury ecosystem for a clientele with virtually unlimited resources, then the sky is literally not the limit.
That is an incredible thought to end on. From the frustration of a crowded boutique in Milan to the flawless orchestration of global movement for the ultra-rich. The trajectory of luxury travel isn't slowing down, it's just unmooring itself and moving faster than we ever imagined.
It certainly is.
Thank you to you, our listener, for joining us on this deep dive. If you've ever felt the friction of travel, you now know exactly how billions of dollars are being spent to engineer it out of existence. Keep looking beyond the horizon. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.